Today I would like to talk to you on the subject, leadership is influence. I would like to share with you a couple of insights as we get into this lesson. And the first one is this: leadership is influence. And basically what I'm here to say to you is that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Harry Overstreet said it so well: the very essence of all power to influence lies in getting the other person to participate. So when we lead people, we influence people. So many times we think leadership is title or position or where I am on a job description chart. No. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. My favorite leadership proverb is, he that thinketh he leadeth and hath no one following him is only taking a walk. And I know a lot of people in leadership positions taking walks, don't you, huh? So leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Number two, our influence with others usually is not in all areas. Very simply stated, here's what I want you to understand. We can influence people in certain areas, but in other areas not influence them at all. Does this make sense? In other words, we don't have total, complete influence. Many of us think, well, because I'm the leader, I ought to be able to influence people in every area of their life. And that's not true. And when I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, one of the things I do when I teach these laws is, after we've done maybe a half a dozen laws, I stop and I'll ask the crowd, I'll say, okay, how many of you on the first 7 laws of leadership, how many of you scored yourself a 10? Well, nobody raises that. They go, because some of them say, on the third one, I put a -4 for me. You know what I mean? And all I'm trying to do is tell them that no leader does well on every law of leadership. Does that make sense? And then what I try to help them understand is that when you get if this happens to be my leadership team, when you get your leadership team together, one of the things that you understand very quickly is that you find out what you're strong in and what you're weak in, but you find out what every one of the different players on the team are strong or weak in. Does that make sense? What's your name? Lydia. Okay, take Lydia for a moment. Let's say, for example, she may be strong in navigating. She may be a very good navigator. She may be able to take the organization from step 1, step 2. She's really a process step type of a person. Well, if Lydia is stronger in navigating than me, even though I'm, quote, the leader. Are you with me? What I have to understand is I turn the ball over to Lydia and I let her lead the team. Now, this is very important, because the moment we understand that leadership is influence, not position. Now, see, if I think leadership is position, you know what I'll think? Because I have the position, I ought to lead everything. Isn't that true? Because I'd say, well, I'm the leader. Hello? You may be the leader, but if you're not good in the area, you don't have any influence. If you don't have any influence, you're taking a walk. So what I do is I look at my team members and I say, the person strongest in this area of navigating is Lydia. So we all look at Lydia and we say, okay, you've got the ball. You're the coach here. You're the leader here. We're all going to hang in here and kind of follow you. You kind of direct us through. And she takes the project. This is very important, because the moment we understand leadership is influence, and the moment that we understand that we don't influence people in every area of your life, then we have to ask ourselves, what am I strong in? What am I weak in? And we go around and we tell the rest of the team, here's what I do well, here's what I don't do well. What do you think? Do you think I do well in these things? And they'll tell you, ask them. And here's what I think you do well. Until everybody on the team knows basically who should carry the ball based upon what area of play the ball is to be in. And that is very important in the area of leadership. So when we talk about leadership and understand that it's influence, we have to understand that it's not only influence, but that we don't always influence the people in the same amount of influence or the same way. The third thing I want to share with you about influence is, with influence comes responsibility. Wow. Boy, is that true. With influence comes responsibility. In fact, I have one of my own quotes in here. There are people whose feelings and well-being are within my influence, and I, as a leader, will never escape that fact. So, when we lead people, we're responsible to them sometimes to a certain extent for them. Number 4, my influence with others is either positive or negative. In other words, when I influence people, I'm either adding value to them or I'm sucking life out of them. How many of you, watch this, how many of you know people that you're just, I don't know, you're having a bad day. Maybe you wake up with an Excedrin headache number 832, whatever, okay. You're having a bad day. How many of you just know some people when you're just not having a very good day, you just say, dear God, in your sovereignty, don't let me see so-and-so. How many of you know? Yeah. Oh, yeah. How many of you are sitting beside that person right now? Don't go there. Don't go there. Some of you are in deep weeds now. And isn't it true? Aren't there other people when you're having kind of a bad day you really wish you could see? Because they're going to replenish you. There are people that use their influence in a positive way. There are people that use their influence in a negative way. I was doing a conference recently on relationships, and I was really getting down to some issues with the people. And I asked them a question, and that is, look at yourself for a moment. Now don't raise your hands. Don't give me any kind of a visible, don't go there, okay. But just look at yourself for a moment. And I got to ask a question of you, and it's a good question. Do other people desire to be around you? Or do you sense that people avoid you? It's a huge question. Because I run into people all the time and they'll say, boy, I'll tell you right now, nobody in the office likes me and they don't want to hang around me. Well, I hang around with them for about 3 minutes and they're just a negative, they're a downer. I mean, they're just a downer. And I want to stop and say, no wonder people in the office don't be around you. Let me help you. My name is John. I'm your friend. Let me tell you something. You're not likable. In fact, I'm getting rather sick hanging around you myself. See, you can use your influence in a positive way, or you can use it in a negative way. And one more thing, number 5, and then I want to talk to you about 10 ways to gain influence in your life. Number 5, people of positive influence add value to other people. And I think that is very true. Success is when I add value to myself. And significance is when I add value to others. And I think that's a huge difference between success and significance. Now, I've just shared with you that leadership is influence. In a moment, I'm going to share with you 10 ways that you can gain influence in your life. If I were sitting right now and I was listening to me do the lecture, the question I would ask myself, above all other questions, would be this one. I would be saying to myself, okay, if leadership is influence, how do I gain influence? How do I become more influential? Because it's a fact, is it not, that if I become more influential, I have the ability to lead more people. So I want to share with you 10 ways that an influencer gains more influence. Let's take the letter I in the word influencer. The letter I stands for integrity with people. What I have found is people that truly influence people have integrity. There's a wonderful paragraph of Dwight Eisenhower who says, in order to be a leader, a man must have followers. And to have followers, a man must have their confidence. Hence, the supreme quality of a leader is unquestionably integrity. And without it, no real success is possible. No matter whether it's on a sections gang, a football field, in an army, or in an office, if a man's associates find him guilty of phoniness, if they find that he lacks forthright integrity, he will fail. His teachings and his actions must square with each other, and the first great need, therefore, is integrity and high purpose. You know what Dwight Eisenhower said many, many, many years ago? It's true, because there was a recent survey of 1,300 senior executives, of which 71% of them put as the highest quality of a person that works in their company, the highest quality, 71% of them said should be integrity. You see, influencers have integrity. I have a wonderful businessman friend of mine by the name of Don Meyer. And do you remember, this was now probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Do you remember when they had the major Tylenol crisis? Do you remember that, huh? And they were, taking Tylenol off the shelves of stores all over the country. Okay. Don Meyer sent me what I'm going to read to you. It's in your notes about Tylenol. Here's what it says. Some years ago, earlier in their mission statement, they had a line saying that they would operate with honesty and integrity, and several weeks before the Tylenol incident, the president of Johnson & Johnson sent a memo to all presidents of divisions of J&J asking if they were abiding by and if they believed in the mission statement. All the presidents came back in the affirmative. The story goes that within an hour of the Tylenol crisis, the president of Tylenol ordered all capsules off the shelf, knowing it was a $100 million decision. When reporters asked him how he could decide so easily and rapidly on such major decisions, his reply was, "I was practicing what we agreed on in our mission statement." And then I love the quote that Don Meyer put at the end. In fact, I would encourage you to underline this one. He said, "John, it is always easy to do right when you know ahead of time what you stand for." Isn't that a great statement? It's always easy to do right when you know ahead of time what you stand for. In the book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, one of the laws is the law of solid ground. And the law of solid ground says to have integrity, you need character and you need competence. Abraham Lincoln on the next page said, "When I lay down the reins of my administration, I want to have one friend left, and that friend is inside myself." Lou Holtz is a wonderful friend and having great success now at South Carolina. I'm so excited for him. His team lost every game last year. I happened to be having lunch with him in Dayton, Ohio about a month before the season began this year, and I was asking him, I was saying, "How's the team going to do this year?" And he said, "John," and he's a motivator. He's a motivator even at lunch. You just have to understand. When Lou Holtz is with you, you just eat your lunch faster than normal. I mean, he just motivates you. And he leaned forward, that twinkle in his eye, and in the way he speaks, and he said to me, he said, "John," he said, "I promise you this year, we will not only win some games, but we will defeat a top 10 football team." And of course, when he beat the second game of the year, they beat Georgia, was in the top 10. I wrote him a note and said, "Lou, you are a prophet." And he's just a wonderful, wonderful motivator. Here's what Lou Holtz said. He says, "Do what's right. Do the best you can, and treat others the way that you want to be treated, because they will ask 3 questions. 1, can I trust you? 2, do you believe this? In other words, are you committed to it? Do you have a passion for it? And 3, do you care about me as a person?" Which brings me to the next point. If you want to influence people, you not only have to have integrity, an influencer nurtures people. There is a nurturing quality about people that influence people. And here's what I want you to note. It's in your notes. Many leaders love their position more than their people. When that happens, leaders soon lose their position. I was in China a couple of years ago with Margaret and my brother Larry and Anita, my sister-in-law. And we were at the Great Wall of China, and they were telling us the story how that the peasants of China would get tired of the oppression, and finally they would gather enough people together they would overthrow the emperor. But what they said was so interesting to me is they said that within 3 years of the time that the peasants were in power, they would be as corrupt as the emperor was. And there was a need for another change within the government. Well, leaders and people of influence understand that the position that they have as a leader isn't what makes them a leader. It's the caring for and the nurturing of their people. Now, first of all, I would be the first one to admit people can be very exasperating. How many of you know at least one person that just really sucks life out of you? I love the quote in your notes of Margaret Smith. Now, this is not true about parents, but my parents have been visiting me for a few days. I just dropped them off at the airport. They leave tomorrow. I love the next one here. Let me read it. When Narvaez, the Spanish patriot, when Narvaez, the Spanish patriot, lay dying, his father confessor asked him whether he had forgiven all of his enemies. And he looked astonished and said, "Father, I have no enemies. I have shot them all." Here's what I want you to know. Few leaders love their people more than their position, but when that happens, leaders strengthen their position. And there's a wonderful paragraph about achievers care about people that I want you to read on your own, because it basically just says the more that you're successful, the more that you're truly going to care for others. Let me give you some notes about nurturing people. Letter A, nurturing people does not mean needing people. A lot of times people think, well, if I'm a nurturer, it's because I really need people. And in fact, I put it in the notes, you can't lead people if you need people. I'm not talking about an unhealthy codependency here. I'm talking about caring for people, but I'm not talking about finding all of your worth in having people need you. Letter B, nurturing people does mean that you're going to make a commitment to people. In fact, I love the statement, love will find a way, but indifference will find an excuse. And that's very true. Letter C, nurturing people does mean loving people. Henry Drummond said that you will find as you look back upon your life that the moments when you have really lived are the moments when you have done things in the spirit of love. And letter D, nurturing people does mean lifting people to a higher level. And that is so key. That is so key. Bo Schemblecker, who used to be the football coach for the University of Michigan, said, deep down, your players must know that you care about them. This is the most important thing. I could never get away with what I do if the players felt I didn't care. They know in the long run that I'm in their corner. It's interesting. While I was signing books during the break today, I had a gentleman come up to me and we were just talking for a moment. He's a business person, and he said to me, he said, John, he said, let me tell you when I really got turned on to your materials, your books, and your tapes. I said, when's that? He said, you did a tape about 5 years ago entitled Lifting People to a Higher Level. And he said, when I heard that tape, all of a sudden I realized as a leader that this is what I need to do this. And he said, that tape lifted me. He said, and that's what I try to do as a leader. Well, let me say this. If you're going to influence people, you're not only going to have integrity with them, but you're going to be a nurturer. There's going to be a lifting process. They're going to be glad to see you come into the room. Number 3, an influencer has faith in people. Now I'm going to talk about believing in people. Emerson has a great quote, every man is entitled to be valued by his best moments. Think about marriage. Think about before you were married, huh? Before you're married, what do? You evaluate the person that you're in love with through the best of eyes. Isn't that true? Oh, yeah, I know they've got some faults, and yeah, I know that, but boy, they do this, and they're wonderful about that, and all you can see is the positive. You know the difference between being engaged to a person and being married after about a year? Perspective. Perspective. On the front end, you see all the good qualities, huh? Isn't that right, huh? Because I used to do marriage counseling all the time, and I'd watch this. I mean, a marriage counseling, I always thought it was worthless to do marriage counseling because they want to get married, they're coming in there. I mean, they don't listen to anything you say. I mean, you just look outside, they're getting out of their car, and he runs over there, and he helps her out of the car, and kind of helps carry her, guide her into the office, and you got this big couch and you have this one little chair and you say sit down and they both sit in the little chair, you know what I mean? And they're holding on to each other as if they're at any moment going to be pulled from each other's grasp. And you look at them and say, do you have any money? No, we don't have any money. Do you have a car? Well, we use Uncle Charlie's. He's let us borrow his. And do you have any prospects of a job? Well, I think Burger King, we're going to get a job over there. And they got 17 reasons why they shouldn't get married. You can't talk them out of it. I mean, hello, nobody's home. Finally, they kind of carry each other back out. And he opens up the car door for her and puts her in, and then she slides all the way across. And you kind of think, why didn't you just put her in on the driver's side? Yes, where she's going to end up anyway, huh? That's before marriage. And I mean, they just, all they can see is the possibilities. About a year out later, they're coming back to the same office, considering divorce. Now, total different perspective. She's on her side, he's on his side. She opens her door, he opens his door. They walk in the room, he sits on the couch, she sits on the chair. Now, both of them are working, both of them have cars, both of them have a home, they got a good job. But all they can think about is the problems. It's all perspective, folks. It's all the way that you look at life. You see, the only difference between excited about getting married and not excited about getting divorced many times is that all of a sudden, instead of seeing others through the best of eyes, you see your mate through the worst of eyes. And none of us, here's the way this works, none of us are good enough if a person wants to see us through our bad traits. None of us are good enough to survive a relationship. Do you know that? How would you like to be judged at your worst moments? And yet, don't you know some people that do that? And see, leaders, they understand. You see, they see people. Leaders see people not only as they are, they see leaders as they can become. That's what makes them good. That's what makes people want to be around them, because they see that potential within them. So in your notes, assets make things possible, but people make things happen. And in leading others, there are 3 feelings that a leader cannot possess. In other words, if you're going to be around others, if you're going to lead others, there are 3 feelings that you just have got to avoid. Number 1 is fear. When you begin to fear people, you won't lead them. You'll manipulate them, but you won't lead them. Number 2 is dislike. Leaders that dislike their people always take advantage of them. And thirdly is contempt. When you have contempt for people, you'll not lead them well. In fact, in your notes, if we are afraid of people, that's the fear issue, we cannot handle them. In other words, we won't tackle the tough issues. If we dislike people, we should not lead them. And if we look down on people, we will not respect them. And the first responsibility of a leader is to look at people and have faith in them. In fact, let me walk you through this for a second. Here's what I believe. If you're leading a group of people, one of the greatest ways to get people to rise up. Now think about it for a moment. Just think about it for a moment. We're talking about belief in people. We're talking about faith in people. I want you, first of all, I want you to think of a person that really believes in you, okay? Have you got that person in your mind? Think of a person that really believes in you. Now think of your behavior around that person. Here's what I know about you. If you're right now thinking of somebody that really, they think you're the cat's meow. They really believe in you. Here's what I know. That person that really believes in you, the person that really thinks highly of you, here's what I know about your actions. You will do everything in your power never to disappoint them. Isn't that true? Your behavior will just go up a couple notches only because they truly believe in you. So here's what I suggest to leaders all the time. Look at the people that you're leading and give them a reputation to uphold. And you give them a reputation to uphold by talking about something that they do that is very successful. And you not only tell them about how good they are at it, you tell everybody on the team how good they are. Now all of a sudden, you're lifting the bar. You're giving them a reputation of where everybody looks at them, and there's a reputation for them to uphold. And this becomes huge. When you lead people, this faith in people, this believing in people, you give them a reputation to uphold. In other words, look at a good quality of a person that you're leading and put the bar up there and talk about that person and relate that quality to that person. Now, let me stop here for a moment. Make sure that they have that quality. True? If they don't have that quality and you talk about them doing it, you'll lose you'll lose credibility with the rest of the team because they'll say, well, Joe doesn't do that very well, huh? So you don't want, but find something. What I've always said is find something that really is a good quality about that individual, and then lift it up there and give them a reputation of which then they will do their best to uphold it. This is huge. Listen, I not only do this with people in my organization, I do this with my nieces and my nephews. Find your people that you're leading, and if you really believe in them, give them a reputation to uphold. And not only tell them how good they are in this area, but tell the whole team how good they are in this area. And I promise you, all of your people will begin to start to live up to the reputation that they have, because what I have found is leaders see the potential in their people, tangibly let others know what that potential is, and that literally draws the people up to that level. This is